So what does it really mean to be a strong dad? Is it the amount of weight that we can lift? Is it the fact that we can run miles at a certain speed? Or maybe it's because we want to see our abs in the mirror. Or maybe it's something deeper. It's how we move. It's how we breathe. Maybe it's even how we lead our family when life hits really, really hard. The particular podcast today is not just about physical strength and the things that we can do physically. It is about leading our family, and that's what Oz really, really hits upon with this one. So we're just going to dig right in. Enjoy today's podcast. Let's get started. Oz, what's going on, man? Welcome to Dad Edge. Good to have you here, brother.
Thank you so much.
So I want to start with your childhood, you growing up, and what the relationship was like with your own dad. Obviously, this is a dad show. So I'm always so intrigued of the guests and what their experience with their own father was.
You know, my father, I'm going to start by saying that he passed away in 2007. And my childhood could not have been any better, honestly. Like, he was such a cool dad. For one, my father was very young when I was born. My father was 21, different times, right? I was born in 76, so different times. And all of his friends loved that guy. Whenever I met his friends later on when I was older, they would see me, going to school or whatever. Hey, how's the dad doing? Tell him I said hi. And the reason why that was because my dad was very involved in the community. He learned how to fix cars at a very early age, and he was always helping people out. Like, your car broke down, bring it over, I'll fix it for you. He was that kind of guy. He was also involved in music. And of course, anytime you're involved with music and you're playing at venues and things like that, you're going to have a big group, a big community that really admires what you do and they love you. So they were always like, asking me to say hi to my dad and things like that. Of course, as a child, seeing this man that was very capable, very friendly, very helpful to his community, and he was also like a really cool dad. I mean, my dad was a drummer. He played the drums in a band, like it doesn't get any better than that. With that came a lot of education about music, which was a huge connection between the two of us. We would talk about music for hours. And to this day, I still listen to a lot of the same records that he left for me, when he passed away. And which by the way, I went back home to Puerto Rico last year after many, many years, right? And that's when I went ahead and got all the records from my brothers. And I brought them home. And so now they're here because nobody really appreciated it as much as I did because I was the oldest. But he was loving. He taught me a lot about fitness. He taught me a lot about being a good friend, about being a good husband. And I have nothing but respect for the guy.
My gosh. So he passed away in 2007. And just by adding up the age there, how did he pass away so young?
So he was 52 when he passed away, and it was a heart attack, which does not bode well for me. But I'm doing everything that I can with my fitness to combat that. And I'm sure we'll talk about that. But
My goodness, man. And but you mentioned in there, let's extract some of the gold of your dad and the things that you learned. You mentioned in there that your dad was able to teach you a lot about marriage. And I don't know, I'm just gonna guess here, but I don't know if he ever sat down and he's like, "Son, this is how you make a good marriage," or did you just watch him do it?
both, and
Awesome.
yeah, so he led by example for sure, and that's something that he instilled in me. Again, not by telling me, but just by showing me. But my dad took the time to hang out with me and to have those cool conversations that men should have with their kids. And when you start asking questions, you're a teenager and all that stuff. My dad never shied away from that. He met that challenge head on. I had my first shot with my dad. You know what I mean? Like, I drank my first beer with my dad, having one of those conversations. I remember when I graduated from high school, and he took me out to have lunch, and he was just unloading on me, like, hey, like, you're about to go into the military. You're not gonna be here. You're not gonna have that safety net or your family like helping you, bailing you out and stuff like that. So you're gonna have to, like, all the things that you've learned, you're gonna have to like just live by that. And whenever you find yourself in a corner, you think like, man, I don't know what to do. Just try to remember the things that you've learned, and just hear my voice in your head, and it will guide you. And here's the coolest thing. Once I left, you go from Puerto Rico into the military, get out of the military, you stay in San Diego. I'm trying to go San Diego State, get my degree there, trying to survive in a big city, big market as a personal trainer, not the easiest thing to do. So there were many times when I spoke with my dad on the phone, and, I was a little down. And I was like, damn, dad, like, I don't know, things are not working out and all this stuff. But the last time I talked to my dad, I was like the most positive I have ever been in any conversation with him. And I was like, Dad, I don't know what it is, but I just feel like things are working for me and all the things that you told me were true. And like, I just feel like I'm unstoppable right now. And I'm such a high, like things are really, really good for me right now. And he was like, I'm so happy for you. This is great. And that was the last time I talked to him. Now, I am so thankful that that was the case, right? Because imagine if it had been one of those bad conversations where I was like, I feel down. I don't know, what's going on and whatever. I don't think that would have really affected the way that he looked at me, but I'm just personally happy that that was our last communication and that I was on like this high and that's the last thing, the last time we interacted. So,
Wow. So it sounds like you and your dad were just really tight.
super
Right?
tight. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, the interesting thing about it, Oz, is as you talk about him, it just seems like you experience joy when you talk about him. I mean, I know he's been gone now for almost 20 years, but for a man who was that tight to his dad, it just seems like there's a lot of intentional joy behind the energy and how you talk about him. And I don't really sense a lot of sadness. Is that accurate?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I got to experience life with my dad at a level that a lot of people whose dads are still alive, they will never experience. So I really have to be thankful for that. And again, like when I say that my dad was really cool, I 100% mean that. Like I, when I dream about my dad today, like he's always alive and happy and we're hanging out and having fun. But, if I hadn't been his son, I think we would have been like super tight buddies, like super good friends because the man was kind. He was giving. He was all the things that honestly, like I've aspired to be, and that hopefully I'm fulfilling like that promise of like being a good son by just walking in his footsteps.
Wow, man. I agree with you, man. Like, yes, it's, your dad was taken, far too young, I think, in probably both of our opinions and the opinion of probably just about everybody. At the same time, I go back to that quote. One of my most favorite movies is Braveheart. And he says, every man dies, but not every man truly lives. And you are so right, man, that, even though your dad was here for a short time, perhaps, you got to experience something, that relationship with your dad that most men, unfortunately will go to their grave at the end of their life, and their sons will go to their graves at the end of their lives, never experiencing even remotely close to what you got to, even though it didn't last as long as we wanted it to be.
Agree. And what's an interesting fact about, we talk about setting the example and how I had a great example, and I'm fortunate for that. My father, he did not know his father. So how he became the man that he did, I don't know, but it's incredible to me that he was just super kind and loving.
That's amazing, man. And now you're married. You've been married for 4 years. You've known this woman for 20 years, correct?
Yes, we've been married for 10.
10, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
And by the way, you're almost 50?
I'm 49. I'm going to be 50 in January.
That's crazy, man. Well, I just turned 50 in July. And but dude, you do not look 50 I'm sure you hear that all the time. Like you probably say your age and they're like, no.
Larry,
no.
Larry, I live in California. Everybody looks really young here.
Oh man, that's wild, man. That is wild. So okay, you have this really, really unique background, of Eastern martial arts and how that has shaped your life. You've also been in the military, and how that's shaped your life. But you have this, I'll kind of call it for what it is. It's like this yin and yang approach, sort of Eastern philosophy, and also maybe I would call it maybe the Western grind.
Mm-hmm.
But you really, I wouldn't say you necessarily combine the two, but it seems like with your mission and how you teach people about fitness and strength and everything else, you do combine the two, but you complement the two. But I would love for you to explain from your point of view this yin and yang of Eastern philosophy and Western, and how you approach that.
Yeah. one of the really important aspects, there are three main ideas that we work with in my brand Iron Core, right? Which is like my fitness brand and what we do.
Which I love the name, by the way.
Thank you.
So cool.
Thank you. And the first one is like, it is my job to form a really great assessment of where you're at. That's the greatest value that I can give you when we first meet, and we're going to start exchanging that or forming that relationship of coach and trainee, right? If I can help you understand where you're at, what that means is that we're wasting no time. We can start moving forward from the optimal place, right? Instead of less than optimal. The second idea is that technique and form should be superior to a lot of other things. Okay. So instead of going for the PR, I may be more invested in like perfecting my technique. And I'm going to bring this back to how that affects the whole idea and how this permeates my life. And then the last one, and the most important one, is to have the long-term approach. Or we like to say, we're playing the long game here. Okay. Now, we just talked about how I lost my father at an early age, and we all know that can happen at any time. But none of us should be walking around with the expectation that in the next minute it's all going to be over. I think we should prepare our souls as if that were the case, but we should take care of our bodies if it's going to last forever. And to that end, you got to have a bit of a softer touch with the way that you approach your fitness. Okay. So going back to it, it's understand where you're at. For me, it's having the knowledge to convey that to you. And for you, is to accept that as a trainee, right? Then we have technique. We call it form overload, right? So technique always is going to be superior to how many reps you can do or how much weight you can lift, especially if it's done poorly. Because at that point, it's like, does it really matter, right? It's how we do one thing, it's how we do everything. It's applicable to a lot of things in life, right? So it applies to the gym as well. And then there's that last part, right? Like we want to do this for the long term. So to that end, I don't want to do silly things in the gym, but I also don't want to do silly things in life in general, right? So if I bring this back to like career advancement, right? Sometimes we are offered opportunities and we're told like, hey, Oz, we have this great opportunity for you, and it could mean career advancement for you. Now, what I like to do with my own and whatever advice I give to anybody that I work with is like, be really honest to it in evaluating if you can actually do that. Because too often we were told like, just fake it till you make it and just keep pushing forward and you'll figure it as you go along. And I think there's a gap there where people that can, there's a gap there that can be covered and there's a gap that cannot be covered. And we can be really delusional as to how much we can do. I admire the enthusiasm of people that kind of jump and do that, but I ascribe to a philosophy of just being more grounded and being like, that is a good challenge that I can meet. This is beyond what I can do. And I'm not only going to hurt my organization and my teammates, but I'm going to be hurting myself as well. And that's the distinction that I like to make, right? And when you combine these things, I grew up in the West. I like to grind. I like to work hard, like to train and, take chances and all that stuff. I can tell you a bunch of stories about taking chances with careers and things like that. But I think you have to do it from a grounded place and from a place of self-awareness, right? I don't want to be delusional as to what I can do. If you and I are friends and we're going to embark on a project, wouldn't it be better if I were honest about my skill set and what I can do for you and whatever project that we have, instead of promising of what I can do, and then it crashes and burns, and now I've just let you down, right? And that's selfish to me. You know what I mean? I wouldn't feel great if you did that to me. So it's about having that responsibility within you to approach the situations with such care. And that applies to fitness as well. So you can see how, from the gym, I can really expand that out into my life and the people that I work with, especially when I work with young kids, that are asking me questions like, Coach, like, how do I do this? How do I do that? I don't want to discourage them from being courageous and going for things, but I also want them to be self-aware and to have some prudence about the decisions that they make.
I really like this because I probably need somebody like you in my life. I'm not going to lie, especially like I heard you on another podcast, when I was doing my homework on you, and I was like, oh wow, like I do train myself into absolutely annihilation and not stimulation, sometimes. And so like now that I'm 50, I'll tell you this, like I love the fitness realm. I actually graduated with a degree in undergrad in sports med with a minor in nutrition. I was actually going to go into corporate wellness. I wasn't ever going to, and I ended up going into med device sales. So I was in the surgical OR for almost 20 years. But I've always had this love for fitness, and I've always been one of those people that, like, I don't have an off switch, unfortunately, and it's done me a lot of good, but it's also done me not so good. So, like, I'll give you an example. I hosted a men's event on May 4th this past year, and it was me and this other guy that I've been friends with for a long time, Ryan Mickler of Order of Man. And one of the things we did at the event was we did a lot of physicality while we were there. So we did some jujitsu, we did some PT, and we did obstacle courses and this kind of thing. And then the last thing that we did was tug of war. And Ryan, I've got 10 years on Ryan. Ryan also has about 30 pounds on me. And it was between my group and his group for tug of war. He won the first match, his group did. And then our group, our dad group, won the second one. And then the championship became between me and Ryan. And I literally stood there before I picked up that rope and I said, I'm either going to break or die before I let this rope go. He will not beat me at all costs. If it costs me everything, if I die in this field, I will not lose. And I tore my patella tendon.
No.
I did. And it was the most horrific injury, the worst pain I've ever had in my life. Well, it was really muddy. I'm pulling on this thing. I refused to let it go. My bottom leg I hit this mud patch. My bottom leg went one way, the top half went the other, and just totally tore the thing right in half.
Oh, man.
And I hit the ground. And here's the thing, like, as you and I are recording, I'm 2 months into my recovery, and I still control the controllables. My body fat is still below 8%. I can't train my legs, but I'm still controlling the controllables. But here's what I'll tell you. Like, that mentality has gotten me in trouble in the fitness world because, like, sometimes I will go way too far and I will just decimate my body. And aesthetically, it looks pretty good. But over 30 years of doing this, I've paid for it with injuries. And probably, dude, at one point, I'll tell you this. I won't go into the big, drawn out thing, but do you still live in Southern California?
I do.
Okay. Are you familiar with SEAL Fit, Mark Devine's program?
I am.
Okay. So I was training for Kokoro, and had no idea, which I really can't wait to talk about this other thing too, which is your central nervous system. I completely physically decimated my central nervous system, fried my adrenals, and trying to train for that thing, and just like literally put myself out for like 8 weeks. I just exhausted myself. And I'm like, and the doctor would look at me and be like, dude, what is wrong with you? Like, do you not have an off switch? And I'm like, I guess I don't. Like, so I really want to talk about this thing where, like, especially there are guys in their 30s and 40s, but they're taxing their central nervous system. They're taxing their physicality. They don't have the off switch. They're training for today and not 10 years from now. So I really, really want to talk about, like, how can we rethink as men, right? How can we rethink our energy, our patience, our longevity, our presence at home? Like, all this stuff interacts with each other, correct?
100%.
Yeah. So, like, give us, please. I'm telling you to help the audience, but selfishly, I'm like, can you please help me?
So first of all, I want to say I'm very, very sorry about your injury. That's horrific. And I know that you were training for a marathon, right? At some point recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did that last year. Yeah.
Okay. That's not good, but we can talk offline about some things that I can recommend for you to keep doing. I'm sure you have great care, but if I can add anything, I'll do that.
I appreciate that.
Here's the thing. When you start to look at fitness through a neural lens, one of the big ideas up front that you get is that your nervous system is designed and predispositioned for survival. Okay? That's its main job. Okay? This is why it regulates your blood pressure, why it beats your heart for you when you're asleep, why it breathes for you when you're asleep, right? All these autonomous processes are there to keep you alive. when you exceed that demand on the nervous system, right? And you're constantly in a state of threat because you feel like something's bad's going to happen. You're going to get hurt. And your nervous system picks up on this. It will start to give you pain. It will start to give you dysfunction because it wants you to stop. It's like, listen, like, have you ever heard of people that have like really bad like aches and pains that nobody can diagnose? And then they're taken out of a stressful situation and all of a sudden it all disappears, right? So what that means is that sensation that you felt that was experienced as pain was not a physical thing wrong with your body. It was your body trying to stop you or getting it out of you or getting you out of a situation. And so you can think about the demands that we put on ourselves as a bucket. And that bucket is called the threat bucket. And we're going to put financial demands in that bucket, okay? Because, that's right. We're going to put education. Maybe you're pursuing some education. We're going to put the stress of your job. Maybe you're like really hard charging job, high powered something. We're going to put your fitness in there. We're going to put your relationships in there. We're going to put your faith in there, your spirituality in there. All of these things are demands on our system. And at some point, that bucket gets full and it starts to overflow. Now, a simple approach that we can have to countering that or helping with that is just like you talked about the things that you can control earlier, right? Well, the fitness part is one of the easiest things that we can control by just tuning down what we're doing and understanding that we don't have to go full out 100% all the time in order to get the benefits from fitness. It's actually quite the opposite. If we do less, okay, that can be better in order to allow us to put more into the other buckets, right? And as we go through life, okay, because it's a very long lifeline or a timeline, sometimes you'll really have to push. When you were getting ready for that marathon and you were getting close to it, you had to peak. You had to push hard. And then came the event. That was the day to go all out. It wasn't before that, right? And then you finish that project and then you start to invest into other projects. And the level of commitment you have to the different things, the different demands, needs to go up and down commensurately. Otherwise, the bucket will overflow and you will experience your existence as pain and dysfunction. But we can have a measured approach and know that I'm going to be going to school. So I know that I need my fitness to fit that lifestyle. Or I'm going to have another kid. I know I need my fitness to fit that lifestyle, what I'm about to have as a demand in my life. And if you can bring those up and down, almost like those old school equalizers, then the bucket doesn't overflow. And what you have coming out of that bucket is performance and just feeling good, not pain and dysfunction. So that's like a pretty broad look at how we would look at it from a neural perspective.
That makes sense. So basically you're telling me, hey, dummy, listen to your body, okay? Like tap, tap, something's trying to tell you something here. Let's talk about this a little bit more. Like when it comes to the central nervous system, have you ever heard of the Braverman test?
No, I have not.
So it's an online test. It was I have a friend of mine who's also in the fitness industry, and he's kind of like you remind me of each other a little bit, and it's more like this holistic approach, to fitness. It's not just like muscles, right, and body. It's like everything. And one of the things that the Braverman test tests is your neurotransmitters, so like GABA, acetylcholine, epinephrine, all these different things. And basically, it's a subjective test, so you're answering questions, but then it measures, where your deficiencies are depending on your answers. But I think it's safe to say, from a physical standpoint, our bodies can look a certain way, but mentally and emotionally, and the central nervous system, I think it's safe to say that a lot of us, like, we wouldn't think, you mentioned a marathon. I wouldn't think to try to run a marathon without stopping to go to the bathroom, without stopping to get water at the water stations, right? Or if I needed to walk for like, a few hundred yards or maybe a half mile, I'm going to do that. But when it comes to our central nervous system, at least Western philosophy, like where we grind, right? I think a lot of us think that we have to subscribe to this life, that we have to sprint the marathon. And if you break for a glass of water, you're weak, right? And you better not be complaining of being tired because that's weak. And we walk around feeling quite like horrific and run down. And we wonder like why we don't feel like doing something, or we don't feel motivated to go like improve our fitness level, our relationships, or whatever not. But in your opinion, how important is it to pay attention to that central nervous system and make sure that we are not taxing that?
It's paramount. It's up in center stage, because if you do that long enough, you can develop some debilitating conditions. I mean, anxiety is one of them, and we know that anxiety can be crushing to people. It can present itself as a number of neurological issues as well. Um, Experiencing life with pain all the time is not normal. That is not normal. Yet some people live that way. Some people live with chronic back pain, and some of it could be remedied by just simple physical therapy, right? That external stimulus. But some of it can also be addressed by lowering some of these stressors that we have in our life, maybe doing a little bit of breathing training and just kind of taking the foot off the pedal just enough. I'm not telling you to stop. I'm just telling you to slow down, at least briefly. Let's get things back online. Let's things working again, and then we can push again, right? One of the earliest metaphors that I heard about fitness that really resonated with me, this going back to like 2000, was this idea that fitness is like the seasons, right? It's not always summer, it's not always winter, and it's not always spring and autumn, but you got to flow with that. And when things in nature do not flow with the seasons, they pay the price, right? As organisms, we have to adapt to our environment in order to continue to survive. And so that's why the leaves fall off the tree during a certain time of the year, and then they come back. And so we think that we can always be this beautiful tree with beautiful flowers everywhere, and not understand that there's cycles to this thing. And if you're not adhering to those cycles, when the cycle is going to let you know very quickly that you're not an exception to the rule. And that's the importance of it, is that you can do it all you want, and many people do it for years, but there will always be a price to pay, where there is some kind of cognitive issue, or a representation of that um, uh, imbalance physically, where you're just like, God, I'm just miserable. My shoulder hurts, or my neck, my back, whatever it may be. And so again, I think we get told that no, that's just the way it is. You got to suck it up. You got to move forward. There are times that you have to do that, but that's a small percentage of life. We cannot live like that. I mean, I don't know anybody that wants to, really. Like, it's just a miserable existence.
So you even talk about the connection with posture and gait, with energy. Can you talk about posture and gait and what that does to our energy?
My goodness, this is a perfect segue, because if you are experiencing an overload in the demands of your body, and that can be through fitness and the responsibilities of life, demands of relationship, things like that, it can have a profound effect on the way that you move, even down to the way that you walk. And there's no more chronic stressor on the body than the way that we walk, because we walk all the time. We accumulate a lot of steps. And I don't know if you ever been, somebody shared with you the math that goes into walking, that every time you take a step, it's 1.5 to 2.5 times your body weight going through your body in force. Every time you take a step, boom.
I've never heard that.
Boom. Boom. When you run, it jumps up to like 3.5 to 5 times as much. If you're sprinting, it can go as many as 6 times your body weight going through your body and force. Now, what do you think that does to a body that's not well aligned, right? So we started talking about gait. When you look at gait, there's going to be 2 ways to interpret it. One way is the neurogate, which is like they are representations of deficiencies in your neurological system that are characteristic. Okay, so if somebody has poor cerebellar functioning, they're going to walk a certain way because the cerebellum is responsible for certain things, and you can see it in their gait. Similarly, if somebody has poor PMRF functioning, which is another part of your brain that's responsible and important in movement and cognition and things like that, if you have a deficient PMRF, it's going to show up in your gait a certain way. Okay, so that's one way. what we call neurogates. The second part of it is more of a biomechanical approach. So you're looking at, feet turning out, you know, collapsing of normal structures, arches in the body, things of that nature. Okay. But almost 100% of the time, if somebody is overloading their body, they're going to have some kind of dysfunction in their gait. Whether it's like head forward posture, rounded shoulders, turned out feet, bowed legs, anterior pelvic tilts. There's a host of biomechanical presentations that we can see very clearly, and that a trained eye can look at and be like, I know exactly where I need to start with this person. Now, the significance of that is like, well, who cares? Everybody walks funny. True. However, we talked about those forces going through your body. Whenever these things happen, what it causes is a bit of misalignment. And over time, that misalignment with the stress is going to start to strengthen, because a basic physiological law basic law of physiology is that your bones and your tissues will strengthen at the lines of stress. So if you do a lot of deadlifts with really good form, people that do a lot of deadlifts with good form, they look a certain way. Sprinters, they look a certain way. Wrestlers look a certain way. Boxers, and you can go on, right? Because that's the stress they're putting on their body. So it creates a certain adaptation. When you are all misaligned and crooked, that's the adaptation. So the dysfunction is now feeding itself and making it worse, because your tissues are getting basically set in these positions that are not supposed to be there. Okay? And sometimes people do this on purpose. I'll give you an example, because my wife's a dancer. Ballet dancers, they train themselves to be in a turnout consistently. So their hips are like stretched out to the sides. Their external rotators are really yanking back. And so you put that person in a regular fitness situation and say, I want you to stay in parallel and perform this movement. Most of the time they can't do it. And if they can, it's uncomfortable for them. So when you ask about what are the consequences, of the gait and all that, it's like, it is chronic. We do it a lot. So it's very easy to accumulate a lot of volume very quickly. And if anything is out of whack in there, it's going to have a profound effect on the way that your body is set all the time, which then, goes into other activities as well.
I'm sitting here like just literally tearing myself apart, like with my current gait, because I'm limping right now still. I'm still working on it because I'm trying to get range of motion back in my left knee right now, which is only about 105 degrees right now. And it's throwing off my entire body. Like suddenly my shoulder doesn't feel right. Suddenly my elbow doesn't feel right. My neck doesn't feel right. Like it's like all these things are from heel to head. I can tell things are getting misaligned and mismatched. I mean, luckily, like, I do a lot of stretching. I do what I can right now, but I can definitely feel the effects of like this one knee and how it's like completely and totally propelling different things throughout my body right now that I haven't felt before. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, I totally get it. As far as, I'd like to talk a little bit about simplicity. One of the things that I think you do so well is you really subscribe to, kettlebells, and you also subscribe to body weight, which I think is fascinating, because I think so many guys are so used to being like, well, I have to lift heavy things. And you have this approach that I think is, quite frankly, we love as men to add complexity. Like, it's got to be tough. It's got to be complex. It's got to have 18,000 moving parts. And if it doesn't, it can't be effective. But you have this simplicity approach, and I would love for you to talk about that.
Thank you for saying that. When I first got introduced to kettlebells, I remember picking it up and thinking like, this is pretty cool. Like there were so many possibilities all of a sudden, right? Like I can squat this, I can press this, I can row this. And those are just like conventional things, right? Now I can learn how to swing a kettlebell in a specific style. I can snatch this kettlebell, something I've never done. I can do a Turkish get-up with this get-up, something that I've never done. So there was a world of possibilities. But the cool thing was that it was just one tool. It was just one kettlebell. And, like everyone else, I questioned it. I was like, really? Is this little thing really going to like work me the way that I need to? Because, I come from a body barbells and dumbbells kind of world, right? Military, all that stuff. And to my surprise, it did. Um, as soon as I saw somebody do like a hardstyle kettlebell swing, which was in 2006 in La Jolla, California, this woman named Sarah Laurie, who was the founder of Iron Core before I inherited it. And she commanded the room like a boss. Like there was about 10 people there. Half of them were like my age at the time, like late 20s, fit guys, personal trainers, dude, what's this woman going to show us? And she goes and performs this swing. And I just looked at my friend and I was like, what just happened, dude? Like, seriously, like we need to learn everything about this now. And so the kettlebell is the perfect complement to the simplicity that is body weight training, which for the record, I think every person should know. My uncles were really young when I was very young. They were teenagers still when I was like a baby walking around. They used to play with me all the time like I saw their little brother. And one of them specifically was really into martial arts. So he taught me how to do push-ups, single leg squats, one-arm push-ups. I could do one-arm push-ups when I was like 9 years old because my uncles were like, "Poof." And I'm like, well, no one told me that it was hard, basically, right? You just see it. You're like, okay, you just go and you try until you get it, But no one put that limitation on me that, oh, this is really hard. You can't do it. So you'd be surprised what your kids can do if you don't put any limits on them. Because I know I was just like that. My uncles were like, do this. And I was like, okay. And I would go do it. But coming from that background where I grew up doing a lot of body weight training, and then I went into martial arts that has a lot of body weight training, and boxing and wrestling, more body weight training, if you will, right? And then you meet the kettlebell and you're like, oh my God, this is perfect because now you can bring them together and have something that you don't need to go anywhere to do. You only need one piece of equipment. And I remember pre-2020, me telling friends, people that I talked to, Larry, what if something happened and you couldn't leave your house? Wouldn't it be cool to have just like a basic knowledge of body weight training and some kettlebell movements? And then the prophecy came true. We got locked down, and everyone that I knew that I work with in the fitness industry, we had no issues. They were coming by my house, and I would leave a kettlebell out there just to make sure that nobody was the wrong person wasn't going to get it. They would zoom by, get the kettlebell, take it home. So all of the people that I work with before the pandemic, we had no issues. We didn't miss the gym. We weren't crying. We were like, oh my God, what am I going to do? We already have the solution. We know how to train with body weight, and we know how to train with this one kettlebell, and it can fulfill all the things that we need to do for our fitness. I think at a basic level. Listen, I teach seminars. I teach other trainers how to become coaches. And part of what we teach is the barbell and the StrongFirst lifter certification. However, that like we got to have more than just that, right? We really have to be well versed in multiple modalities to be well-rounded individuals, because again, you just never know when you're going to need that. If you have a big facility and you have the means and the time and the energy, then go ahead, make it as complicated as you want, my brother. I'm not stopping you, but there are times in life when we need to take a step back, and it's always nice to have that in your back pocket so you can use it. And besides, sometimes we just want things to be simple. Why not? Maybe I want to put more effort into something else,
I love that, man. I think that that's good news for a lot of my audience, because our version of like, fitness is, well, I need a gym and I need 10,000 pieces of equipment and I need a rack of dumbbells at all different types of weights. But I think everybody can be like, well, I can just do this in my living room. That's kind of cool, right? So just out of curiosity, how do you, so like things like, do you believe in like bicep curls?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
so, and like, okay. Cause I didn't know like if body weight meant like, no, it's more like these compound movements. It's more like these, so like, let's talk to the man right now where his definition of fitness is, I need a gym. And he's listening right now and he's like, man, I'm really liking this. Like I can actually do some really cool stuff and I might not even have to leave my house. So like, I think the hardest part for a man is that question of what do I do first? Where do I start? So when it comes to this body weight workout, or maybe even that one kettlebell, what do you recommend somebody to do like in their first week of just doing body weight training?
So I'm going to be very honest here with you. I'm going to expose myself a little bit. There was a time when I was very young as a trainer, and I got introduced to all these wonderful modalities, and I thought like, oh my God, I'm so advanced, I'm so cool, I'm so forward thinking. And I started to be a little dismissive of some of these things that had been very helpful to me for a long time, like bicep curls, okay? And I think that's a normal thing that we go through as professionals in this field. I mean, I've made my living for over 20 years training people, so it's like, it's not a hobby. But when you come up, the same thing happened when I started to learn about neuro. All of a sudden, it's like everything has to be revolve around this and everything else sucks and whatever. We all go through this. So I think I understand the heart of the question when you say that you believe in bicep curls. I had a brief period when I was like, bicep curls are useless, but that's nonsense. That's complete garbage, and it's not true. Now back to the issue. What can they do to start right away? Now, if you're asking me that somebody is a father and has limited time and energy and they don't have a lot of knowledge, wouldn't it be better if it were simpler? If it was really simple and kind of short, not a big time commitment, just really like a small ask, man. All I'm asking you to do 3 times a week, do this warm up, do this bodyweight exercise, and a few kettlebell exercises, boom, done. 20, 25 minutes, you're out the door. That would be good. Now, if you graduate from this little program of mine, right? And there's no such program, I'm just making an example. If you graduate from this little program, then yes, we can add a little bit more, right? And it can become quite wonderful. I mean, at the moment, my workouts are kind of like 2 hours long, but I also have a facility in my home. This is my profession. I've been doing it for over 20 years. Like I have the time and the energy and the setup to do it. But there was a time when I had one kettlebell and I worked out in my room or go to the park and do it there, Um, and so we got to be able to float back and forth between these things. But the gentleman that's at home and he doesn't know a lot about this stuff and doesn't have the equipment and the time and all that stuff, the simpler, the better. We're talking about at a fundamental level, you can look at movement patterns, right? So we know that we need to squat to have healthy bodies and healthy functioning in life. We need to be able to hinge and do that properly, understand some basic awareness about the torso, the core, the pelvic floor included in that, your diaphragm, so that you can compress it and create a strong cylinder so that your spine doesn't collapse. Now, this idea of being able to know how to brace is super important for strength training, and it doesn't get talked about enough. Whenever I see somebody learning about any kind of weight-bearing exercise, and the first thing that's being taught is in breath and how to organize it to support the activity, I want to raise my hand. I'm like, hey, coach, I got a question. So what is he supposed to do or she supposed to do while they're doing that? Because this is really important. And this is where a lot of injuries happen. So just having a basic understanding of breath control and proper posture goes a long ways into helping with the basic movement patterns. Okay. Squatting, hinging, pulling, pushing horizontally, vertically. Then you have drags, right? So you can drag a sled or maybe even drag a kettlebell at the park or something like that. These are things that translate very well into a full functioning human being physically, okay? If you want to get a little bit more spicy and a little bit more out there, you can look at it as grinds and ballistics. Those are the two basic kettlebell movements. And if you can learn a couple of grinds and a couple of ballistics, you're going to be in good shape. You're going to have a really good starting point. May I offer, for example, the Turkish get up and the kettlebell swing. Two very simple movements, but they cover a lot of bases and they don't take a lot of time to practice. In fact, there's an entire program built around this, which is called Simple and Sinister, that was created by my man Pavel Sosolin, So it's not hard to find answers for the questions that we all have. Modern life is difficult. We're all trying to make it out there and do these things. And there are times when we just don't have the time to devote to a very complex and involved fitness regime. And in the meantime, we got to do something to keep the ball moving forward. We just can't give up and be like, well, I don't have the time. I mean, you can't do that. And then good luck with the consequences, right? And then when that time passes with the seasons that we talked about earlier, and now you have more time, maybe the kids go to school or whatever, Now you can get into the more complex stuff. And here's the best part. You have laid down the foundation to do whatever else it is that you want to do next. That isn't that beautiful? Like you did this easy thing, easy, I put in air quotes, that helped you get through this moment right now. But then it lays out the foundation for doing whatever, springboard from whatever you want to do from there. That to me is pure elegance in these systems and why I love them so much and want to tell everyone about it, because to me it's like invaluable. Everyone should get this education. It should be taught at school, man.
I agree with you, man. I just did a podcast yesterday. I recorded a podcast with my oldest son because we do a show now in the middle of the week. And the show is entitled Things You Had to Learn, But They Weren't Taught in High School. And man, there's a lot of this. I remember, I think that there's more awareness around fitness and stuff now, but I think with these youngsters, it's kind of taken to the extreme. That's like how much there was like some 17-year-old out there that I saw try to benching like 900 pounds. Have you seen that video?
No. Wow. What?
I thought it was absolutely fake. I was like, this is not real. There's no way. But apparently, like I've seen this video like 6 times on Instagram, and different like big influencers in the fitness realm are like, will give their 2 cents around it, and and apparently this thing is real. Now, granted, he barely pushes it, right? So there's that, but it's like, is that the new standard? Or like, because like I think a lot of people would view like, oh, the body weight and the kettlebell, like, oh, that's just a waste of time, when actually it's not. It builds you, it builds that structure from the inside out. It helps prevent probably so many problems and injuries and all different kinds of things that could go wrong. One of the fitness influencers that commented on this guy's video is like, dude, you're 17. You are absolutely destroying your body. Like this is not sustainable like when you're 30. But, just to switch gears just a little bit here, Oz, I am guessing that you probably have some resources out there for men who they don't really know what this looks like. But where would you like to direct men to go find more information about this, or where they can get started?
The very first place I want you to look at is the StrongFirst website. Okay. And it's just strongfirst.com. A lot of your audience, I'm sure, is familiar with StrongFirst and Pavel and his work and all of that. Of course, if you're local to San Diego, you can come, work with me. I work in La Jolla, and I only do face-to-face training. I don't do any kind of online training. I'm also not on social media, which I'm sure you probably found kind of odd when you were. But
it was a little harder to do homework on you.
Yeah, I had a very healthy social media presence, but I made my choice. My bucket was full, and I had to make some choices, and I chose to let that go. And I will tell you, my business and my personal life has really taken off ever since I made that decision. I'm very happy about it. My website, ironcoreway.com, ironcoreway. And, I have a lot of live events that I teach at. So, for example, in August, in the middle of August, we're going to be teaching the Kettlebell 101 workshop here in San Diego. That is an official StrongFirst event where you come and you learn some of the things that we've talked about, how to breathe properly, how to arrange your posture, how to, hinge at the waist, and all these different things. You can get there and be a rock star, and you're going to walk out feeling even better. You can get there and know nothing about kettlebells, and you're going to walk out with the confidence that you can go home and practice and develop your skill. And we have one of those every month for the rest of the year. So we have Kettlebell 101, 201, 301, and 401 and 501, which are brand new workshops that have never been taught in California. So I'm super excited to teach those. And those are advanced kettlebell curriculum for the stuff that we teach at the level 2 certification. So super excited to teach those too.
That is so cool, my man. That is awesome. We're going to have all the links in the show notes for you guys for this kind of stuff. What are you doing past August? Is there more past August, like into the fall and maybe even next spring?
Yeah, I have one kettlebell workshop every month until December. So August all the way through December. There's one every month. There's 5 of them. But they're all progressive. So it's going to be like the Kettlebell 101. Then in September, I have 201, October 301, and so on and so forth. And each one has like a step forward in the curriculum. So that would actually be a really great series for people to jump onto, because they can start from the beginning and then progress it all the way to the advanced curriculum.
Got it. Awesome. Well, guys, we're gonna have all the links in the show notes for you. I got to tell you, Oz, this was a really fantastic show because it wasn't just about muscles and abs and supplements. It was like this whole body holistic approach to how we can create, I think, wellness, longevity, and I've never heard anybody in the fitness realm talk about posture and gait, but that in particular was really fantastic to hear. And it actually motivates me to go get this gait worked out faster than what I need to, because like I'm still walking around with, you know, this limp right now, but hopefully that's going to go away here soon. So, but thank you so much for coming on, man. This was awesome.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You bet. Gentlemen, head on over to thedadedge.com/1378 for this show. Again, thedadedge.com/1378. And we'll have all the links in the show notes there for you. And go out, continue to live legendary. Take care.